The Kraken. A beast so fearsome it's impossible for a single sailor to defeat her alone.
This is a load of barnacles.
Hello world, I am Calypto, and today I'm going to show you guys how to solo the Kraken. So let's get cracking. Moving on from that terrible pun, patch 1.4.0, the Shrouded Spoils update, brought a few key changes to the way the Kraken works. The most notable change being that the Kraken can now attack a ship of any size. This means solo sloopers are vulnerable to a new threat that they didn't have to worry about before. However, the difficulty of the Kraken encounter is scaled to the size of the crew, so you won't have to fight a Kraken quite as difficult as the one you would see on a galleon. The other changes to the Kraken include a new slap attack, loot drops, and some changes to the existing mechanics of the fight. So how do you actually beat the Kraken solo? Here's what you need to know. First, gather enough supplies before the fight even begins. A big factor in your success is going to be how well prepared you are for the Kraken's attack. As soon as you load into the game, you should suck the outpost dry of resources. As long as you take the time to loot supplies from the outpost, you should be able to leave with at least 70 cannonballs and 35 planks and bananas. Usually, you'll actually be able to get more than that. It's very common to find a voyage to deliver a resource crate. Pick up the crate from the Merchant Alliance and use it to help you loot faster. Make a point to gather resources from each island you visit. Even a single inventory load of resources goes a long way to making sure you have enough supplies to defeat the Kraken. Most outposts have a fort very close by, and they're very rich in resources. I like to sail for the closest fort immediately after leaving an outpost. Try to find a rowboat ASAP. They can be invaluable during the fight with the Kraken. They are also common at forts, which is another reason I like to head there so quickly into my adventure. You might be thinking, what happens if I'm attacked as soon as I leave the outpost? Well, 70 cannonballs and 35 planks should actually be enough resources for you to win the fight. You might think planks are what you're going to need the most, but it's actually the cannonballs that are the bottleneck resource. You should be able to win the fight using less than 10 planks, usually less than 5. You also shouldn't need any bananas. Don't worry, if you don't believe me, I'll show you in a bit. Awesome, you have all of the supplies you need to fight the Kraken. But how do you actually kill it? Here's what you need to do. At the start of every fight with the Kraken, your first priority is to raise the sails. You want the ship to stop moving so that your shots on the tentacles are easier. You don't want to lower your anchor, because you might end up having to turn the ship to get easier shots on different tentacles. If the anchor is dropped, this becomes significantly harder, and it takes way longer. Just raise the sails. Second, you want to detach a rowboat if you have one, so that the rowboat is floating in the water and not attached to the ship. I'll explain why in a little bit. Then you are free to get your planks, cannonballs, and bananas. Make sure you have a full inventory of all of them. Now it's time to fight the Kraken. In a way, the Kraken fight is kind of like a sport, because it can be broken up into two categories, offense and defense. Okay, maybe it's not like a sport, but that statement still stands. The offensive portion of the fight is very straightforward. You win by killing 2 to 3 tentacles, if you're on the sloop. Each tentacle can survive 6 to 7 cannonball shots approximately. The rumor is that shots closer to the head of the tentacle do more damage. This hasn't been verified yet, but I still try to land as many shots there as possible. The trick is to be aggressive and target one tentacle at a time. Don't worry about missing a shot here or there. Pick the easiest target to hit and unleash cannonballs like a madman. I don't even use guns during the fight. But if you feel like you need to, grab 2 out of the weapon box, because the cutlass isn't going to do you any good. The tentacle will shake violently and screech before going underwater if you have killed it. you will also hear this jingle. If the tentacle goes underwater without doing these 3 things, it's not dead yet. Try to find where it resurfaces. If you shot it before it went underwater, it will take less hits to kill this time around. Playing defense against the Kraken comes down to knowing its moveset. The Kraken has 3 moves, and once you learn them, the fight is quite simple. The first attack is the slap attack. A tentacle will slap the ship, rocking it and putting 3 holes in the hull. If the holes are in the bottom deck, this becomes the highest priority. Fix the holes immediately and bail out the water. If the holes are in the back of the ship, under the canopy, you can ignore them for a little while. Just be sure to bucket out some water every now and again. The next attack is the suck attack. One of the Kraken's tentacles will try to suck you up out of the ship. You'll see what looks like wind coming from behind you and moving towards the tentacle that is trying to suck you up. Avoid being sucked up at all costs. If you are sucked up, the chances of you sinking increase dramatically. This is really the only way you can lose the fight. To avoid getting sucked up, get below deck or under the canopy. Both areas are safe. Do not be on deck near the cannons. You can interrupt the suck attack by hitting the tentacle with the cannonballs or the gun, but it's not guaranteed. The only 100% way to stay safe is to be under the canopy or below deck. The last attack is the wrap attack. One of the tentacles will wrap around the ship and do damage every so often while it is wrapped. Do not hit the tentacle that is wrapped around the ship. Do you see this tentacle?
No touchy. No touch.
Instead, hit the short tentacle that is very close to the ship. It will only take 1 cannonball before it goes underwater. 99% of the time, after you hit it, it will switch sides, so be ready on the other cannon. It takes a few seconds for the tentacle to resurface, so use this time to bail some water, get some cannonballs, and reload your ammo. Do not just sit idly by. Hitting this tentacle 3 to 4 times will make the wrapped tentacle let go. Usually, the tentacle wraps over the canopy of the sloop, in the very back, so you can ignore those holes until you have it unwrapped. Now, the question a lot of you are probably asking right now is, what do I do if the tentacle wraps in a way that blocks the stairs? It's insta-death. There's no way to defeat it. How do I do it? Well, there is a way. First of all, your plan of attack shouldn't change. You still want to shoot the short and close tentacle 3 to 4 times to make it unwrap quickly. You should be able to do this before you take on too much water, but be ready to bail water quickly. Now, if for some reason you absolutely need to get below deck to bail water, here's how you do it. Provided that you detached the rowboat at the beginning of the fight, like I said earlier, you simply jump overboard, swim to the back, get on your rowboat, and reattach to the ship. You now have access to the lower deck. Make sure that when you go back above deck, you do so by getting on your rowboat and detaching again. If you need to get to the cannonball barrel, swim to your ladder, climb up it, and you should be able to interact with the top cannonball barrel from the top of the ladder. Unfortunately, I've never been attacked by the Kraken in this way, so these ideas are kind of theoretical, but they should work. Well guys, that's all of the advice I can offer. The best thing to do now would be to watch full-length clips of Kraken fights, so I'm going to include 3 for you guys to watch with no more of me talking, just fighting the Kraken. Pay attention to the amount of resources I have in each of the fights, and keep a lookout for the things that I do wrong. 2 of the fights are pretty decent, but in one of them I make a lot of mistakes, but that's where you can learn the most. Hopefully, these will help you become better at soloing the Kraken. Thanks for tuning in. Check me out on Twitch at twitch.tv/xcalyptox, and stay tuned for more how to solo videos.